What's up everybody, I'm Kirk and I'm gonna level with you. There was a lot of first-person shooters that were announced in September. There were a lot of first-person shooters that came out in September. September was crazy. I was overwhelmed, but in a good way, because it was a lot of fun. I tried to pack as much of it into my September State of the Boom, which is my monthly roundup of FPS news and releases. And originally, I was planning on featuring a handful of demos of the boomer shooter variety at the end of it, as there were a lot of boom shoot demos that dropped in September. But as the video crept closer to that 30-minute mark, I decided to spin off the demos into their own video. But then I realized that only doing a handful of them wasn't enough to make a satisfying piece of content. So I went, screw it, let's cover as many as we can. And that's what this video is, me talking about a bunch of boomer shooter demos that I just played. Most of them from September, but I threw in some others from earlier in the year that my community has been asking me to check out. I haven't done one of these in a while as I've been lost in review and video essay land, but frankly I want to make sure my shooter audience is well fed before I delve into some big long-form projects at the end of the year. There are 20 demos featured in this video. I'm going to spend roughly a minute on each, lending my initial thoughts from playing them. Now, of course, this isn't going to cover every single FPS demo that's recently released, so if there's a demo you're loving right now that's missing here, kindly tell me about it in the comments. So with that, let the demonstrations begin. Enjoy. Berserkers Domain. This is a low-poly arena FPS roguelite. Get ready to hear a lot of that throughout this video. Rampage through levels, demolish all enemies, and upgrade your arsenal. Nothing too complicated here. While this demo was absolutely insane, in all it wasn't too bad. The gameplay mostly felt good, and I liked how the levels were sort of a hodgepodge of classic FPS games, all smushed together. And it's already demonstrating the sort of roguelite progression that hooks you in and keeps you playing for just one more run. Plus, you can make it so your character farts throughout. Yes, the finer things. The big bummer is that the performance wasn't good in the demo. It hitched and stuttered all throughout my playthrough despite meddling with settings. Although this is a demo, so we can't harp on the optimizing too much. Overall, a goofy, fun love letter to classic FPSs with a lot of spirit. Let's just hope it gets a lot more polished before its final release. Captain Wayne. Next, we have easily the most charming demo of the bunch, in my opinion at least. Made in GZ Doom, this one feels like a straight-up cartoon come to life, in the style of something like SpongeBob SquarePants, but with gratuitous violence. Your arsenal revolves around Captain Wayne's mechanical arm, which is able to change into different configurations, being a shotgun, machine gun, and itself. Very much a Lethal Inspector Gadget vibe here. The visuals have that retro GZ Doom look, but enemies impress with expressive animations and the world is vibrant and fun to explore. I really don't have anything negative to say on this so far. Feels like it's going to be another shining example of how awesome and versatile the GZ Doom engine is. CTESIPHON, I think? Yes, always a good choice to have a title that's hard to pronounce. This is a fairly straightforward boom shoot where you mow down charging enemies and collect keys to progress, all in a tropical vacation setting. I'll be blunt, I didn't like this one. Mechanically it was solid, good shooting and movement, but past that the enemies were dumb as rocks and the level design is pretty uninspired. In all, I was pretty bored throughout it. Of course, the final product could turn out a lot better, but judging by this demo, the game has to do a lot more to stick out in the crowded boomer shooter niche. DARKENSTEIN 3D. This demo has been floating around for a bit, but with DARKENSTEIN's October 21st release date recently announced and the hype I've noticed for it, I thought I'd give it a go. This is a very tongue-in-cheek tribute to the Wolfenstein series, and by extension, classic first-person shooters. Gameplay-wise, it feels like a missing link between Wolfenstein 3D and Return to Castle Wolfenstein, because you have a visual style reminiscent of the latter, along with the gunplay, but level layouts that harken more to Wolf 3D. Blocky mazes, big square doors, and lots of colored keys. In all, the demo was fun. You are able to play around with the full arsenal, which so far is checking all the boxes, with a beefy shotgun, big old minigun, deadly sniper crossbow, and some special electric types. Past that though, it's rough around the edges in terms of visuals, with some jank interfering with the gameplay. I do appreciate the overall silliness of it. Lots of bad German accents, drunk hobo humor, which for me oscillated from light chuckles to rolling my eyes. However, the references and jabs at FPS culture and history was enjoyable. enjoyable.
Flashlight in one hand, a gun in the other. Handy.
I'll be honest, this one isn't exactly knocking my socks off so far, could go either way for me. But it's got a lot of character so far, and hey, it's releasing for free, which is pretty awesome. Hopefully the final product scratches that classic Wolfenstein itch. Don't Stop Girlypop. This is pretty wild. A boomer shooter, but with the sensibilities of early 2000s pop music. A game with hot pink, flip phones, fresh bops, and the ability to bedazzle your shotgun with rubies, shroomies, and sharks. Gameplay-wise, it's decent, if not a little unrefined, revolving around you moving and shooting as fast as you can without stopping, which keeps your health full and your multiplier high. And I have to say, it's pretty engaging and thrilling. Tripped up so far by occasional jank. My chief worry about this game is that there's way too much going on. Lots of graphics, lots of noises, lots of things being told to you. I almost feel like I'm playing a cross between Ultra Kill and Dance Dance Revolution. A lot of sensory overload here, and it was hard to keep track sometimes of what exactly was going on. Either way though, this one is intriguing. I like the idea of taking a style of game that is almost exclusively tied to heavy metal and making the focus girly pop music. There's a lot of humor that can come from that subversion. But you can tell its developer is taking this quite seriously, as evidenced by the soundtrack and overall presentation, which is quite good so far. It's a quirky curiosity that might just become the guilty pleasure of many FPS fans. Gunstoppable. This is a roguelite arena movement shooter with an emphasis on dual weapon shooting and a grapple hook, as well as a deep upgrade system. So this one wasn't quite doing it for me. I appreciate the visual direction, a crunchy take on cyberpunk, but I think it's working against the game, as it can make everything look cluttered and obscure important information. The core drawback for me is that the gameplay doesn't feel as tight as it should. The shooting is decent, but movement feels floaty and kinda janky. And for a game such as this, where death is so consequential, you want it to be as tight and responsive as possible. Otherwise, it can start to feel like the game is cheating you. But of course, this is still a work in progress, and if I had a nickel for every demo I disliked that turned into a good final product, I'd have quite a few nickels, enough to fill a sock and knock somebody out, or mildly annoy them. It consumes. This was one of my favorites in this demo roundup. Simple but challenging with more depth than you think. Disorienting, yes, but that's part of the charm. This is a roguelite arena FPS, but the catch is you're playing in complete darkness, and many of your combat abilities are there to reveal enemies or hint at their location, with a vast array of upgrades that lend you all sorts of perks, like creating a fire trail when you dash, or temporarily revealing enemies when using certain abilities. The demo was incredibly fun and addictive. When I record gameplay footage, I only like to grab a few minutes at a time, and I got so sucked into this that I forgot I was recording and realized I had captured 20 minutes straight. For those that like these types of games, seriously check out this demo. There's a lot to enjoy here. Meat Engine. This is literally a meat shooter. There is not a patch of skin in sight. Everything is made of muscle, sinew, bone, and fat. So meaty it might make Incision blush. I mean, for Pete's sake, the melee weapon is a spinal cord you use as a whip. The demo is good though. Past the visuals, it doesn't do too much different from the pack of the boomer shooter niche. A late 90s style first-person shooter infused with glidey, slidey, perhaps too floaty movement mechanics. But as far as this demo goes, it's well executed. The weapons feel fun to use, and the levels are big with lots of enemies to take on. There weren't many glaring red flags for me on this one. Well, except for the developer who is making a game about things that have no skin. But I will say the readability of everything concerns me. It's hard to see bone-colored enemies against bone-colored surfaces, and while the soldiers have their lights on, their pitch-black suits make them nearly invisible in darker parts of the levels, which are common. Not to mention the levels are so big, distant enemies can look like a vague grouping of pixels. All that aside, this is feeling strong to me. Definitely a wish list. Mechanical Fury. In this colorful movement shooter, you play as a beefcake of a lady who wakes up to find her arm has been replaced with a robotic grapple hook, much to her horror. And from there, she goes on an acrobatic rampage to get her revenge. This one was checking most of the boxes for me. The movement mechanics and platforming felt real tight, smooth to control, if not a hair on the slow side. The grapple works as you expect it to, and the shooting is decent with special abilities like being able to kick your bullets. There was some negatives to the demo though. The performance was hitchy here and there, and I noticed some missing or softly mixed sound effects for things like explosions. In fact, I'd say the whole thing needs more polish. Unfortunately, the demo did lock up on me at one point, leading to a force quit. A little heads up for anybody who plays it. But overall, it was a fun time, and it's looking like it's gonna be a fun game. And what do you know, this one is actually out right now. So if you're curious, give it a peek on Steam. Project Amica. I think this one looks amazing. A throwback shooter that is definitely trying to emulate the look of the Mega Man Legends games and Misadventures of Tron Bonne. And I'd say it's succeeding. If you can't tell, this was actually made in GZ Doom and might be one of the more creative uses of it I've seen. The enemies and weapons in particular look fantastic. The shooting is simple and straightforward, but satisfying so far. Overall, this is a really strong showing. Be on the lookout for this one and absolutely give the demo a try. Project Warlock Lost Chapters. It's good to see this one re-emerge after its announcement back in 2023. Lost Chapters is a standalone expansion to the original Project Warlock, one of the all-time boomer shooter greats, and this demo previews its new pirate-themed levels, YARG. The pirate theme is nailed here. The new pirate enemies look incredible, your HUD has sea creatures all over it, and the shanty music with the kick drum is sick as hell. Also, the swaying of the level, meant to simulate a ship at sea, is a great touch. The weapons are a little weird though. There's a blunderbuss that spews some sort of liquid and a very slow firing cannon that doesn't feel good at all. And I guess this is a harpoon or a dart gun? I don't know, I wasn't quite feeling the new implements. But I might just need more time with them. And since this is Warlock, there's definitely more weapons coming in the final release. A short but sweet demo. I'm really looking forward to this, especially after being disappointed by Project Warlock 2. Reclaim. This one wasn't too bad. It takes a page from the likes of Ultra Kill with its movement mechanics and has some solid shooting with fun weapons like a laser gun that locks onto enemies and can shoot around corners. There's a big emphasis on using the environment for combat, like grinding on rails, which spices up the straightforward combat in fun ways. And you can earn points by pulling off flares, which are basically combat tricks. The level design was solid too. What I was missing was a greater sense of speed and more style and character. I feel like this game should be faster all around, especially with its movement mechanics. And while I would say these visuals are clean and well rendered, at the moment they're kind of boring. It's a lot of simple gray rooms and stock looking robots. The gameplay foundation is there though, and there is some good quality on display. It just needs more kick. Tempo Punk. This is a rhythm shooter where you move and shoot to the beat. The more on the beat you are, the more damage you'll do. I like this one. A wee bit rough around the edges, and I can't say it's doing a whole lot different compared to other rhythm shooters, but it was fun to play, very approachable, and more importantly, the music was enjoyable, assuming you like EDM. If I had critiques, it's that the assault rifle felt a little awkward to use in terms of keeping it on the beat, and I wish the levels corresponded to the music more. Perhaps changed depending on the movement of the song, or at the very least had lights and strobes that sync to the beat. In all though, this was a strong showing, and I wouldn't mind seeing more rhythm shooters on the market. Scirocco Thugs. I got a kick out of this one, literally and figuratively. This is a first-person brawler where you beat up waves of thugs with pipes, shovels, rebar, and your bare fists. The combat feels fun, if not sporadic and all over the place, and the grimy, low-poly look complements the game's punk vibe. Also, is it just me, or am I hearing Tony Hawk sound effects? And this might be one of those games where the jank makes it better. It wasn't the prettiest or smoothest demo, but I had good fun with it, and perhaps this one could turn into a nice surprise by its full release.
What a play!
SPORTAL. So imagine going to a haunted house, but you are able to attack the performers with slingshots and hockey sticks. That's basically the idea of SPORTAL, a roguelite where you rampage through a spooky amusement park and attack zombies and whatever these things are with slingshots and hockey sticks. Okay, so there's a lot of good things going for this one. Even in the demo, there's a wide variety of weapons and variants to play with. The upgrade tree is huge, and the whole vibe of this is fun, goofy, and charming. But so far, the combat is just okay. Mechanically, it's fine and polished, but a lot of it is just shooting into a mass of enemies and slowly killing them, which felt dull. And some of the weapon types are just not that fun to use. But to be fair, a demo for a roguelite will not capture its full potential, and I can see how this one could turn into the type of experience that has me up until 3 in the morning, holding off sleep so I can do just one more run. Spyrit Walker. This is a spooky open-world western shooter that leans more into the realm of survival horror. Now, this demo was very short, and by its own admission, with a disclaimer popping up at the beginning promising a longer version of it coming by the end of the month or early November. However, there is an older demo from last year included that's much longer and shows off the game better. I'm intrigued by this one. I like the weird, spooky atmosphere of it, and the low poly graphics so far are charming. And the game is designed to be played either alone or in co-op, which is always awesome in my book. Sadly, I thought the combat was pretty lackluster. It's basically big spongy enemies that charge you and show little damage animations, and the guns are lacking some punch. But once again, I find this game's whole vibe to be intriguing, and it is a work in progress. So you never know, it might come out and perfectly scratch that spooky shooter itch. Sydless, or is it Sideless? This was one of the more unique demos I played, and dare I say, it might be the world's first dodgeball movement shooter. Let me explain. Basically, you don't have any traditional weapons, except for a bouncy ball, and combat boils down to throwing this ball so that it hits all your enemies and eventually eliminates them. You can stop the ball at any time to redirect it, and there's other abilities and tools at your disposal. But that's pretty much it. Bounce ball and don't get hit. It's pretty fun, definitely a creative concept, although I'm curious how this will evolve to keep a player engaged for a full-length game. The visuals are solid and vibrant, although the demo was rough around the edges in terms of performance and clipping through walls. But of course, this is a work in progress. In all, a fun demo. Not sure I'm 100% sold on the concept, but I'm eager to see how the final product turns out. VEX Mage. This one was interesting, an arena-style shooter featuring a dual spell casting system where each hand can hold a particular spell. The demo gives you 3 spells to play with, a rapid-fire spell, a grenade-lobbing explosive one, and a precision lightning strike, and you are able to combine these spells to create powerful new attacks. The gameplay was fun, although I have to admit I had no idea what the hell was going on, what I was supposed to be doing, and what the hell I was even fighting. I felt like I had taken a bite out of the Brood Witch or something. High five to anyone that got that reference. Confusing, but enjoyable. My only complaint is that some of the controls, like swiping my mouse in particular directions to switch spells, were cumbersome, and having the ground pound mapped to double tapping the spacebar was very annoying. Interesting game. I hope it makes more sense when it releases. Wanted 3D. This is a Western-style shooter built in GZ Doom and reminiscent of LucasArts' soon-to-be remastered classic, Outlaws. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of digitized actors in games, but I do think this gives it a campy 90s charm. It's believable something like this would have come out in the mid-90s. Overall, it was a solid demo with a ton of action. The Wild West weaponry was fun to use, in particular the 2 flavors of shotgun. Reloading can be brutal though, so make sure you give it enough time, and so far it does enough to keep it from feeling too much like a Doom clone. This one is looking like another GZ Doom gem. Keep an eye out for it. WARAG. Another title built in GZ Doom. This is a good old-fashioned boomer shooter through and through, based on Slavic mythology and bathed in heavy metal. I'd say the demo is competent. The combat feels fine, minus the weapon switching feeling laggy, and the level design was something to behold, with some tricky platforming sections and epic arena layouts. And visually it's decent. It certainly looks like a GZ Doom game, and I think the enemies are well rendered. The weapons do look awkward to me though. I don't have anything bad to say about this other than it feels a bit cookie cutter and doesn't really stick out compared to other retro shooters. It's a straight up Doom clone, and that's not a bad thing, but for those that want something fresh, I don't think WARAG is going to provide it. Whew, that's it. 20 demos down and lots of magical boom shootery to look forward to. What are your thoughts on these demos? What are you looking forward to the most? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. And again, if there's a demo you're loving right now not featured here, share it with me in the comments as well. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and smack that bell. It's a huge help for the algorithm and getting my videos seen by more people. If you want to join my Discord, the link is down below, along with my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.